Hi, I was lucky enough to be able to go to the General Aviation Safety Summit on January 2nd through the 4th of this year. It was really educational, entertaining, and it was inspirational. I'm so glad I got to go. Here's my brief report. First of all, the facilities were wonderful. My hotel room was very clean, it was comfortable, the bed was great. I even had a great view. The event room was beautiful, and the food throughout the whole event was delicious. And of course, Dan was the star of the conference. He even put together a band, and the band did a great job. Super talented musicians. Dan played the guitar, of course, and he also got to play the trombone and the banjo. The speakers that Dan invited to give presentations at the conference did a great job. I learned so much. It was so cool to learn things that will help me be a safer pilot from such experienced and knowledgeable people. It was really amazing. Dan revealed how we did for the year with the goal of reducing general aviation fatal accidents. He gave some great instructions and training, and he told some stories. I want to share one of the stories he told us. It's on my cell phone. The audio is terrible, but you really want to hear this. It's all about what happened to Dan on his very first flight in a 777. And what happened to Dan is now affecting me and you and anyone who wants to fly safe in their small airplane. Listen to Dan tell the story, and then I have something to say to you after the story.
It's preparation. A few years ago, it was a brand new 777 FO and Delta. I've been through all the other fleets. I've been an AQP instructor, and it came time to be a 777 FO was the largest airplane I've ever flown. But through all the training and all this stuff, comes time to, I got my type rating, the stimulator now, so you got to go out to this thing called IOE, Initial Operating Experience. Now the 777 that Delta Airlines had all long legs, it's ultra long haul. Every flight's going to be at least 15 hours, sometimes 18, 20. Well, my first flight, 777, first flight, 777 Atlanta to Mumbai, India. How long was that flight? It's about 19 hours. So how many pilots do we have? Four pilots. I'm one of four, but I'm the new guy. I'm an FO. We get in the cockpit. How many of the pilots have to be in the cockpit for the takeoff coming out of Atlanta at 10 p.m. going to Mumbai? How many have to be present in the cockpit? 4. They assume that I know what I'm doing. No. We have 4 pilots in the cockpit that make the takeoff. The captain, keep in mind at the airlines, there's 2 kinds of captains. There's the kind that you can learn how to do things from, and then there's the kind that you learn, I don't ever want to be like that kind of captain. This particular captain, probably one of the best I've ever seen, and I'll never forget it. Why? On takeoff, at the gate, we're doing our briefing. All 4 of us are in there, and the door's closed. It's a big deal. We're at a heavyweight takeoff, coming out of Atlanta into the weather at night with a full boat, enough gas to go to Mumbai non-stop. So I sit down, we haven't talked about this before. He sits down, he closes the door. Each one of them is on a first name basis, and he goes around the room. It's a room, it's a cockpit, there's 4 of us. And he's the boss, he's going to talk, and he says, this is the way it's going to be. Steve, you're on this jump seat. When we have our engine failure, you make a PA to the people, you're in charge of the PA, and you're going to be in charge of fuel dump. You will dump fuel on my command only when I say one word, dump. It's because we've already decided we're going to have an engine failure. We don't need to talk about it. When I say dump, there's the switch, unlatch it, and hit the button. That's your job. He goes to the next guy, here's your job. You're the co-pilot, here's your job. And he said, Dan, pull out the QRH and open the QRH of the engine failure page. That's for what, sir? Open the QRH, have it out and ready to read. When we have our engine failure, you start reading at 3.1.10 and read it out loud in a clear voice. And I thought, what the hell? We're going through are we going to have an engine failure? Is that what's about? Is this a sin thing or what? He had everybody briefed. We'd start the engines, we'd taxi out, the long runway in Atlanta, V1 of about 130, VR of about 156. Like you're rolling down the runway when you get to VR, it's a big deal. A heavyweight, high-speed RTO would be a big deal. Absolutely. We're probably going. Each person had their job assigned by this captain. Even Dan, the new guy, sitting there on takeoff with his book in my hand. I'm not in one of the pilot seats. I got the book in my hand. On takeoff, we set the power roll down the runway. What happens? Nothing. Nothing. We make the takeoff, put the gear up, climb out, everything looks perfectly normal to me. Nobody says a word, completely perfect. We get to 10,000 feet. This is all right, put the book away, everybody relax, shoulder harnesses off, let's get some coffee. I thought, we went through all of that in anticipation of something that had a 1 in a million chance of happening. But can you imagine if it had happened? How much better would it have been? Much. Everybody did the job. Is it possible for you guys to take that same information and operate your airplanes the same way? I don't want you flying around scared, nervous, and freaked out, but I want you to be ready, assuming that something could happen, and having a plan B, a plan C, being more prepared. I thought what that guy did that night, I took that night of information, and when I became a captain, I did the same thing. I wasn't the captain in a wide body, but every FO I'd say, pull out the QRH, have this page ready, we're going to talk about this. We're losing an engine on takeoff. What? Yes, we are. We're losing an engine on takeoff. What do we do? This is our plan. This is where we're going. You talk to ATCL, fly the jet. How are we going to do it? We're going to divide this thing up. This is how we're doing it. Never lost an engine on takeoff, actually, but for each one, I was fully prepared. How much did it cost me when I was a captain to be prepared for my ship? How much did that cost me? Zero. How much extra time did it cost Delta Airlines for me to operate that way? Zero. We conducted our briefing in the quiet of the cockpit while we're still at the gate. We get our act together while we're there. Could you do the same thing in your airplane? Before you even start your airplane, could you have a plan? Could you have a method of thinking about what's about to happen to you in your 172 or your Archer? Is that possible? That's where I want you to go with this. The whole thing, training versus conditioning. It's a big deal. FAA is hell-bent on training. FAA will not talk about AQP for GA. That's not what they do. AQP is totally outside of their purview. They will not do any of that kind of stuff. They're just simply not going to do it. The whole point of the conference has been to, number one, see if we can do a conference, but number two is to brainstorm how can we achieve 11.0 for next year. I don't know. I really, I'm at my limit on effort, YouTube, travel, all that's all I can do. That's it. The source is going to have to come from additional resources from outside of me. I've been doing my YouTube channel. I've done everything that I can do to try to get this program built, get the data set built. Now, it just needs dissemination. It needs to be spread out a little bit. It needs to go some places, and I don't know how to do that. I just don't know how to do it.
Dan has single-handedly started this AQP for General Aviation grassroots movement. I believe he's doing heroic work, but Dan needs our help. Dan needs your help. Let's all do whatever we can to help Dan spread the word about AQP for general aviation. Even John F. Kennedy wants you to help.
And so, my fellow aviators, ask not what general aviation can do for you. Ask what you can do for general aviation.
If Dan and the DTSB do another conference next year, you would benefit tremendously by being there. Take my word for it. I highly recommend it. It's fun, it's educational, it's inspirational. I hope to see you there next year.